During the recent Nintendo Direct, Luigi Iwata made the surprise announcement that New Super Mario Bros. U would be getting an all-new adventure starring Luigi, appropriately called New Super Luigi U. Now at first glance, there really doesn't seem to be that much that's new. After all, it's just a new mode for an existing game. But after digging a little deeper, we think we found a few things that might hint at something even greater. Now don't get too excited, as there's not exactly a ton in the footage and screenshots for us to go off of. And with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get this analysis started. So as we already mentioned, New Super Luigi U is a downloadable update for New Super Mario Bros. U that, in Iwata's words, is a new adventure starring Luigi that will change the existing 80 plus courses into all new ones. In the footage, we can see that you'll be able to access the new adventure from the main menu, which causes the screen to scroll upward, revealing 3 save files of its own and a nifty looking rainbow in the background. Unfortunately, the footage doesn't actually show the entire setup process, so we don't know for sure whether this new adventure supports cooperative play like the main game or if it's single player only. But we're pretty sure which one it is for a couple of reasons. For one, Iwata himself said that this mode stars Luigi and won't feature Mario at all. Granted, that doesn't necessarily mean the other players couldn't play as Toads or something, but it certainly doesn't bode well for multiplayer fans. But beyond that, let's take a look at the spine coaster clip. Did you notice something different about the train itself? It's noticeably shorter than any of the ones that appeared in the main game. And that would make perfect sense if this is meant to be a single player only affair, as the coasters would no longer need to be long enough to accommodate 4 players at the same time. So not only does this hint at a single player only adventure, but a more challenging one too, as there's less room for error. And one of the screenshots Nintendo released even shows a coaster with a single car attached. Yeah, that doesn't exactly look safe. So as you've probably noticed by now, a lot of the elements shown off are returning from the main game. For instance, it looks like there are still 3 star coins hidden in each level, and then you have the typical enemies like bullet bills, fuzzies, and spikes too. Now reusing elements from the main game should come as no surprise if you played the downloadable level packs for New Super Mario Bros. 2, which did the exact same thing. But this time, just because they use some of the same elements doesn't mean they look or behave exactly as they have before. Now we've already mentioned the shorter spine coaster, but did you catch that the returning arrow lifts can now travel upward while riding them? Whereas before they would only travel down or to the sides. And while most of the backgrounds shown off are lifted directly from the main adventure, there's one that's a little different. If we take a look at the Boneyard clip here, we can see it shows the same basic background as a few levels from the main adventure's desert world, but this time it's been given a darker, grimmier look, one that's appropriate for a boneyard. So clearly this expansion will play around with the existing assets to make them feel somewhat fresh, but it also introduces a host of brand new ones too. Like that boneyard we just mentioned, and the fact that it's a boneyard. Yeah, that giant skeleton there wasn't in the original. Same goes for the grassy walls here covered in flowers. And what about the rainbow colored structure in this scene? Yep, that's new too. And actually, those rainbow colors sure do stand out, don't they? We can't help but wonder if the rainbow that appears in the background of the file select for New Super Luigi U might hint at even more rainbow-themed elements. But there's still one big question. What about the world map? Okay, I can hear you now, but GameXplain, they show the world map in the footage. Yeah, they show the map alright, but it's not the one we're looking for. In case you didn't catch it, there's a note that appears only during that clip which states that the footage is actually from the main game and not New Super Luigi U. So that raises the question, why even have that note if the world map actually is identical, as Iwata hinted at? The mere fact that they pointed it out might suggest that we can expect to see at least some changes to the world map, whether it's slightly different level placement or maybe a different order to the boss fights. That's of course assuming the boss fights are the same, which they may not be. So clearly New Super Luigi U isn't afraid to mix things up, offering a new spin on reused content as well as adding some entirely new things of its own. But to what extent? After all, we've seen less than a minute of footage from the game. But even just based on that, we can already see they're putting more effort into this than the level packs for New Super Mario Bros. 2. But of course, as the name implies, those were just level packs and not an entire adventure. But as it turns out, even offering a brand new adventure based on the previous one isn't entirely unprecedented for Nintendo. To see what we mean, let's take a look at the Japanese version of Super Mario Bros. 2, which is more commonly known to gamers outside of Japan as Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. While it was a full retail game, it was really more of an expansion to the first one than anything else, reusing the same graphics, sounds, and enemies. But it too played around with some of the returning elements, such as by allowing bloopers to fly, or by introducing a red variant of the piranha plant that snapped at the brothers a little more frequently. And not only that, it even introduced a few brand new mechanics too, like the poison mushroom and green trampolines. Oh yeah, it was also a single player only game that allowed you to play as Luigi and was much harder than the first one. Does that sound a little familiar at all? I don't know, maybe New Super Luigi U? Now if Nintendo is actually using this game for reference, we can't help but wonder they might bring back Luigi's unique handling as well. You see, in Super Mario Bros. 2, Luigi actually jumped a little higher and skidded a little further when coming to a stop than Mario did. And these same mechanics are carried over to several other games where you could play as Luigi, such as in Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 and Super Mario 3D Land. And if you take one last look at that spine coaster clip again, it sure looks like Luigi slips a little bit further than usual. But it could just be a trick of the physics here too. We admit it's a stretch, particularly as Luigi plays identical to Mario when playing multiplayer in the real adventure, but it sure would go a long way toward making Luigi's solo adventure feel different. And with that, we're done covering everything we could dig up on New Super Luigi U. As usual, let us know if we missed anything by posting in the comments. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to GameXplain.com for more on New Super Luigi U and other things gaming too.